And now we're going to talk about the learning agreement. As you know, field is a course, and there are requirements for field. Although they're not just requirements, they're considered important tools for learning. For this section, I'm going to talk about the learning agreement. So consider your learning agreement to be a GPS. It's a map that's going to help guide your learning throughout the course of the field year. This is your educational plan that's developed between the student and the field instructor, which will also be approved by your liaison. It's a collaborative process and should also be a thoughtful process, which results in a description of tasks, assignments, and specific activities the student will perform to achieve competencies. It is student specific. Don't pick the easy activities. As I said, it really should be a thoughtful process. So think about selecting activities that are challenging for you. It should also be agency specific. It's really important to clarify expectations for placement. Your learning agreement will also connect field activities to competency, so the opportunities to connect theory to practice will be available to you throughout the course of the field year. So although these activities are the same for the hundreds of students who will be completing their learning agreement, it's how students engage in these activities that are really going to look different depending upon the agency setting. Whether you're placed in a school setting, hospital, housing complex, or Department of Social Services, for example, assessing client needs, assessing safety and risk are going to look different from setting to setting. Even the learning agreement is built on the 9 core competencies. So remember, when you're completing the learning agreement, please refer back to the handout from orientation. No worries if you may have misplaced that orientation folder. You can find this handout on Blackboard, but please do refer to it. It will be helpful as you move through your learning agreement process with your field instructor. So, how is this learning agreement completed? As I mentioned earlier, it's really important that this is a thoughtful process. So the first step is having a conversation with your field instructor. I certainly would not recommend completing your learning agreement in the first week or 2 of field. You really want to spend some time at the agency to acclimate yourself, as well as acclimate yourself to the agency setting and do some self-reflection. Now, as a student, you drive this process. You're responsible for opening the learning agreement, which is done through the electronic field notebook, affectionately known as the EFN, and you'll be selecting from a list of learning activities located under each competency. And again, because you drive this process, even though you're working collaboratively with your field instructor, only you can make the selections or make any changes to the learning agreement in the EFN. The learning agreement is due September 28th for students on a regular schedule, and the due date for our advanced students who are on an extended schedule is October 5th. So before I show you the steps involved in actually completing the learning agreement in the electronic field notebook, let's talk about where you'll find the learning agreement. As I stated, it's located in the EFN, which you will access through our website, www.ssw.umaryland.edu. Select the Academics tab, then select Field Education. Then select the icon for currently enrolled students, which is going to bring you to your login page. You're going to be asked to provide your UMB student ID, which is your UMB ID. The password for the EFN is the same password you created for your My UMB. If you seem to have some problems logging in, forgot your ID or password, don't hesitate to contact the help desk. Logging into the electronic field notebook will bring you to your main page. You will see quick links and another heading, Field Forms for the current field year, located to the left of your main page. The link to the learning agreement is the first link under Field Forms. So when you select the learning agreement, it's going to bring you to an overview of, surprise, the learning agreement, as well as provide some key terms. I'm going to bring your attention to the print function or link toward the bottom of the navigation bar highlighted by the red arrow over to the left. Please use this print learning agreement link if you want to print your learning agreement, this will print a summary of your agreement and quite frankly save quite a few trees. I do not recommend you print from competency to competency or tab to tab, because if you do, you're going to be losing a lot of paper. So again, just as a side note, if you wish to print your learning agreement upon completion, please use that print function at the bottom of the navigation bar. Okay, so you've selected the learning agreement, and on the left, you'll see the navigation bar. You're going to use this navigation bar to move through and access and complete your field requirements. Let's look at the first link called Internship Information. Here you'll find information about your field placement. The information in the white boxes is populated from the field agency's profile. The information highlighted in the yellow boxes will be information you as the student will be completing as you begin field and confirm the information about whether you have a task supervisor and who that may be, what your supervision schedule is, and very importantly, the name of the person who will be covering for your field instructor if they are not available to you. Please make sure the boxes are completed, as it really provides essential information to your liaison, as well as coordinators in the field office. Once the boxes are filled in, click on that red box that says Next. Can't miss it, it's toward the upper right corner of the page. Your information will be saved, and you'll move on to the next tab, or Competency 1. Now, we're going to move on and talk about the steps in actually completing the learning agreement. It's about time, right? Okay, so you completed your internship information and you clicked on Next, or you simply chose Competency 1 or Competency 4 as indicated in this slide. You know you're working on Competency 4 because Competency 4, as you can see, is highlighted on the navigation bar. As you scroll through each competency, you will notice at the bottom that there's information around the student assessment. So if you look at that second red arrow at the bottom of this page, you're not going to worry too much about this section now, because when you go into the learning agreement by selecting the learning agreement link, the only part of the page that's usable is that top section, which is actually part of the learning agreement. When it's time to complete the assessment, your field instructor will access that form by actually selecting the assessment link on the main page of the EFN. The assessment pod at the bottom is what your field instructor will be using to assess your progress toward competency at the end of each semester. Your field instructor will be rating behaviors that you are engaging in to complete those specific activities. Having the learning agreement and assessment on one form allows the field instructor to more easily rate the behaviors based on seeing those learning activities above. This one form will also assist you during your own self-assessment when you're reviewing your progress in field. Just as you drive the learning agreement, your field instructor will drive the assessment process and its completion. And you're going to hear more about the assessment in a later tutorial. Okay. Back to the steps for completion. After collaborating with your field instructor, and as instructed on the learning agreement form, you will select up to 3 learning activities from the list provided, or create a different activity specific to the field agency. If you're creating a different activity, please ensure that activity or those activities are directly related to the particular competency. For our high achievers out there, who may want to select more than 3 activities, please prioritize those selections, as the system will only allow you to pick 3. As you complete your learning agreement, you will be moving through each tab or competency, either by selecting the specific competency from the navigation bar, or moving through the agreement by selecting the learning activities for each competency, and then clicking on the Save/Next box, which is located toward the upper right corner of the screen. This Next/Save box is red and pretty hard to miss. Well, for most, it's hard to miss. You can move through the competencies in order or out of order by selecting from the navigation bar. However, do not forget to save the activities you selected by clicking on that red box. If you do not complete the learning agreement in one sitting, When you actually log back into the EFN to finish your learning agreement, you're going to see check marks in the boxes next to each competency where you completed your selection of learning activities. If you find you'd like to make changes before submitting your learning agreement, simply select the competency or competencies you'd like to modify and uncheck the box or boxes, and then select the new activities. You will see that initial selections are date and time stamped, and you will also see that any changes to those selections will be date and time stamped as well. Please know that your learning is not limited to those 2 or 3 selections. Remember that social work is organic and it's emerging. You will have opportunities to practice and engage in so much more than what you selected in your learning agreement. Or think you're ready to submit it, and you select the link Summary Agreement, located directly under Competency 9 on the navigation bar. Although you can't necessarily see that link on this page, it is located under Competency 9. If you forgot or did not save the learning activities for a particular competency, you'll not only see those unchecked boxes on the navigation bar, you're going to see specific information noted in the text box. Please refer to this slide, in that text box indicating exactly what needs to be completed before you're able to submit. To complete your learning agreement, simply select the competency or competencies needing completion and identify those learning activities. Hit that Save button, move on to the next competency needing completion, or you may be ready to submit your learning agreement. All right, so all is now completed. You click on Summary Agreement. You will see this screen and be prompted to submit your learning agreement as final. What this means is that once you submit, you cannot make any changes until your field instructor accepts or declines the agreement. When you submit your learning agreement, both your field instructor and liaison will get an automatically generated email that confirms you submitted your agreement. Once the field instructor accepts or declines, you can then go back into the agreement if needed to update or make any changes as suggested by your field instructor or liaison. If the agreement is not accepted by either or both field instructor and liaison, and you do make changes, you will then formally submit your learning agreement once again by going to Summary Agreement and then submitting. You also have the opportunity to comment if you wish. As you can see, the text box for student summary comments, as this screen demonstrates. You'll also note on this screen that the field instructor as well as the liaison have the opportunity to comment upon their review and acceptance or decline of the learning agreement as well. Just as a reminder, all comments become part of the EFN and are date and time stamped as well. Again, remember this is a working document that can be changed throughout your time in field as discussed by you and your field instructor as well as your liaison. Each time you make a formal change to your learning agreement, you must resubmit to your field instructor, and both your field instructor and liaison must approve. Please refer to your learning agreement throughout the course of the field year. Although it's not a requirement to submit an updated agreement for the spring semester, you should, let me emphasize the word should, you should be reviewing your learning agreement with your field instructor as your fall semester is ending in order to prepare for your ongoing fieldwork throughout the spring semester.